to Choral Conversations presented by the Johns Creek Choral and Tapestry Women's Ensemble. Before we start our choral conversations, we'd like to thank our patrons. And special thanks to Fulton County Arts and Culture. And funding for this program is provided by the Fulton County Board of Commissioners.
Hi, this is Nathan Frank, and this is Choral Conversations, where we hope to discuss topics that will help you in the concert hall and the classroom. Today's topic is the bel canto period and the vocal technique that came along with it. I think this vocal technique is the safest for younger singers and also provides rehabilitation for older singers that might be in your church or community choir. The exercises that accompany this video are tried and true vocalises that I do almost in every rehearsal with choirs and voice students. And most importantly, they're easy to teach. Before we get started, a little history about the bel canto period. The bel canto style started singing, The bel canto style of singing started its maturation during the late stages of the 17th century and predominantly flourished in the 18th and 19th century. Some of the aspects of bel canto singing included matching the registers throughout the voice. Previously, singers might, sing completely in their chest voice or completely in their head voice, and never the two would meet. This caused breaks in the voice and kind of some ugly yodeling to occur. Also, the applications of portamento. Portamento is the sliding from one note to the next and thus creating a legato line. This is an important aspect in all of singing. I'll explain a little bit more later about that. Messo di voce is an expressive tool. It's the process that requires sustaining a single pitch while gradually making the voice louder and then softer. This one is very difficult for choirs to do, but if they can manage this, they can manage any sort of phrasing that you might ask them to do. Singers at this time period would also use liberal use of tempo. Fluctuations would be quite violent with lots of accelerandos and rubato. This is definitely a break from the somewhat more rigid music coming out of the Baroque period in countries such as England, France, and Germany. Now, unfortunately, this was only a brief snippet of time in regards to Western ideals of singing. Through the advancement of instrumentation, the look, feel, and sound of instrumental music became larger, thicker, and a lot louder. So the voices had to change as well, giving rise to a different kind of vocal technique that was employed in the Romantic period and beyond. Now, people ask me all the time about the fullness of the tone of the choirs I work with and how we're still able to sing in tune. Now, there's no magic to this, and the answers are in this video. I can't take credit. My ears are no better than anybody else's out there. The credit I give it to is a man named Manuel Garcia. Now, Manuel Garcia was a teacher that spent most of his career at the Paris Conservatory and the Royal Academy of Music. Now let me stop here. I've never met Manuel Garcia. He's a voice teacher from the 19th century. He died over 100 years ago, but his teachings are still incredibly valuable today. All right, back to what we're talking about. Now, he is from a family of teachers, including his father, Manuel Garcia, who is singing Mozartian roles when Mozart is composing them. His sister, Maria Melibran, and the most famous, Pauline Viardot. He was on the cutting edge of voice science and invented the first laryngoscope in 1854. With this tiny tool, he was able to correctly hypothesize much of what science has been improving in the 20th century. His seminal work titled The Art of the Voice is a treatise, or a vocal handbook really, that comes in two parts with several vocal warm-ups that help build the voice. What you're about to hear are recordings from 1901. Now, we don't have any recordings of Manuel Garcia teaching, but this particular recording is just as good. What we have is a recording from 1901 with contralto Janet Spencer a student of Hermann Klein. Now, Hermann Klein was an avid supporter of Manuel Garcia. This English voice teacher traveled to New York and America to spread Garcia's gospel. I'd also like to point out that Klein was the founder of NATS, the National Association of Teachers of Singing, and he was also a Gilbert and Sullivan scholar. Who knew that the modern major general and the bel canto would have so much in common? Well, we'll get to that later. But to add perspective, Manuel Garcia is still teaching in 1901, though, at 96 years old. He lived to be 101. Special thanks to Daniel Shigo, who unearthed these recordings and wrote a fantastic book on the topic. There's a link below if you'd like to buy it. So let's get started. In this clip, we hear Janet Spencer doing long tone exercises on Italian vowels. Let's give a listen. As you can hear, the singer is cycling through the Italian vowels in a sustained fashion. The vowels are pure, they're not too bright, and they're not too dark. But because of time constraints in rehearsal, I can only do the exercise with my choir on the ah vowel, which in my opinion is the most difficult of the vowel. Now, I have singers from different countries, states, counties in Georgia. So you might imagine getting a pure Italianate ah vowel is a difficult thing to do, but it's well worth the time. Another reason I do this exercise is to develop the chest voice, which most folks either ignore it or they're worried about it. Now remember, I'm not talking about musical theater style chest voice. I'm talking about developing the chest mechanism so then you can incorporate it into the top. The more you develop a healthy chest voice, the less your choirs have to scream to get those fortes that you desire. Now, I start at D4 and D3 depending on the voice type. And so I start just like this. And I'll have them sing the word awesome, awesome, aw. And I'll go like this. Awesome, awesome, aw. idea behind this is that you want the voice to do what it does naturally, but also encourage the voice to grow. So a lot of your tenors are not going to have those low notes, so just let them murmur. Don't make them push it. Use an easy crescendo, and again, don't push the voice. I always equate this exercise to doing a sit-up. They're boring, but they get the job done. Now, the next exercise in the series is an important one as we hear famed Janet Spencer using an exercise to blend her registers. Now, mind you, in my opinion, there are two registers, the head and the chest. You can hear her start in the lower range on ahs, e's, and es, which encourage the most chest voice. When she moves to the higher part of her range, the ah becomes a bit duller, and you can hear her start coloring the higher notes with more back o and u space. This encourages the head voice and the chest voice to blend seamlessly. Let's give it a listen. As you can tell, this particular exercise would take lots of time to teach to a choir. So I've modified it to two 5-note patterns. The first, starting in the head voice on an oo, and I asked them to encourage them to get louder and modifying to an ah. And what happens here is the oo vowel will make sure that the larynx is comfortably low position and invite more head voice to use. Then thus modifying the ah vowel, which will engage the chest voice but not overly so. And again, we want to make sure that we use generous amounts of portamento, but also make sure to take time. We're not in a rush. This is an ounce of prevention that, again, is definitely worth the pound of cure. So here's the exercise. I'll start on a D major scale. And what I ask them to do is an oo vowel again. So I'll go. And what you're hoping there is that encouraging the head voice and chest voice to come together. Now, the second exercise is to bring the chest voice in a stepwise motion to an oo vowel. You will want to add a decrescendo to not overburden the voice with the chest mechanism as we go higher. So if this was an alto or a bass, you could start down here on an A major scale, A major scale. And again, I don't do this exercise a lot because most choirs don't have a whole lot of chest voice, and so we don't really get to this exercise. But if you do have a choir that's got a lot of great chest voice, you can do this. And again, don't worry about where you're breathing. Just make sure you start a breath, and once you run out of air, come back in. We don't want anybody kind of dying on the vine, okay? So that's why, because we need chest voice to kind of blend these together, that's why the first exercise is so important, to where we can develop the chest voice to then blend into the head voice. Now, the final exercise for today is my favorite to use with a school choir, and it's called the slow scale. And it's just that. The range is about an octave, and you can add solfege to reinforce sight reading It's a great way for singers to build a beautiful line and hear functional harmony before opening up any sort of sheet music. Again, make sure to use copious amounts of portamento to achieve an even legato, and this will again aid with registration, the blending of the head into chest. Again, allow for extra breaths to occur as to not stress out the voice at the ends of phrases. All right, let's give it a listen. All right, that is all we have time for today. And so please tune in next time where we'll look at more exercises to help us improve both tone, flexibility, and again, breathing. I'll leave you today with Janet Spencer singing The White Dawn is Stealing. It was recorded in 1911. Enjoy, and thanks for stopping by and supporting Choral Conversations.